And welcome to the special meeting of the Madera City Council and special meeting of the Madera City Council as the Groundwater Sustainability Agency. Today is Monday, March 20th, 2023. It is now 6 p.m. The Madera City Council meetings are open to the public. The meeting will also be available for public viewing and participation through Zoom. Members of the public may also observe the live streamed meeting on the city's website at www.madera.gov/live. Members of the public may comment on agenda items at the meeting or remotely through an electronic meeting via phone by dialing 669-900-6833. Enter ID 852-0691-4813. 4913, hashtag. Comments will also be accepted via email at citycouncilpubliccomments@madera.gov or by regular mail at 205 West 4th Street, Madera, California, 93637. And I'll call this meeting to order. Alicia, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Garcia?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Mejia?
Here.
Councilmember Gallegos?
Here.
Councilmember Rodriguez?
Here.
Councilmember Montes?
Here.
Councilmember Evans?
Here.
Councilmember Villegas?
Here.
Would you all please stand for the invocation led tonight by Madera City Council member Anita Evans.
Gracious Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight, Father, saying thank you. Thank you for waking us up this morning, Father. Thank you for blessing each and every one of us to be able to make it into this house today. Father, we ask that you continue to watch over us and keep us and just guide us, Father, placing your hands on each one of us, Father, and just lifting us up, directing our path, Father God, and just covering with the blood of your Son, Jesus Christ, placing a hedge of protection around each and every one of us. We ask, Father, that when we leave this place and never leaving your heart, that you protect us and guide us. And we ask these blessings, Father, in your Son's precious name, Christ Jesus, amen.
We also have the invocation led by Councilmember Evans.
Salute.
Salute, excuse me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. I now ask my fellow council members for approval of the agenda and or additions and corrections.
I so move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion to approve the agenda by Councilwoman Gallegos, second by Councilmember Montes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We now move on to public comment. Members of the public shall have an opportunity to address the City Council regarding matters on the agenda at the time that the agenda item is called. Speakers should limit their comments to 3 minutes. Are there any public comments at this time? No? I'll close public comment and move on to approval of the presentation of the Dolores Huerta Day.
You have the proclamation before you, Mayor, to read the proclamation, and that's going to be issued, I believe, on the 28th.
Correct.
In person.
City of Madera proclamation, Dolores Huerta Day. The items listed under Dolores Huerta are informational, and therefore they will be presented to Dolores Huerta on the 28th. That Santos Garcia, Mayor of the City of Madera, on behalf of the entire City Council, do hereby proclaim March 28, 2023 as Dolores Huerta Day.
Very good.
We will now move on to item A, petitions, bids, resolutions, ordinance, and agreements. Item A1 is the revised groundwater sustainability plan for the Madera substation. I believe, Keith, you have this item?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, council members. First off, I'd like to say I appreciate everybody showing up tonight. It's I know this was short notice. This has come together fairly quickly with regard to getting the amended groundwater sustainability plan in place. No, that won't move. Anyway, the point of this particular meeting is to discuss the revised groundwater sustainability plan for the Madera subbasin. A little bit of background. The groundwater sustainability plan, or GSP, was adopted by the City Council on December 18th, 2019. The Sustainable Groundwater Management Act of 2014, also known as SGMA, established new groundwater management and regulation measures statewide. SGMA provides for but does not guarantee local control, and I can explain that a little bit more later. Generally speaking, we have control until we don't do what the state. Right here? Yeah. In other words, we have we have control until we don't do what the state expects us to do. And that's a little bit of a line to walk, but I think that we're able to do it here in Madera County. We just have to go ahead and follow through with everything that they've asked. Now, the GSP is required as a result of SGMA. The GSP allows for local control, but methods must be approved by the State Department of Water Resources. That is a big part of this meeting here tonight as well. The DWR provided a review of a GSP letter of our GSP in a letter dated September 22nd, 2022. They identified 4 deficiencies. One was coordination, a failure to demonstrate that the 4 GSPs have coordinated to address the regulatory aspects of SGMA. There are 7 GSAs within the Madera subbasin. They're the city, county, MID, Madera Water District, Gravelly Ford Water District, Root Creek Water District, and New Stone Water District. The first 4, city, county, MID, and MWD, prepared 1 GSP. That is our GSP, of course. The second point that they've identified is chronic lowering of the groundwater table. The GSPs did not establish minimum thresholds for chronic lowering of groundwater levels in a manner substantially compliant with GSP regulations. We did provide measures, however, they are not accepting those measures. Land subsidence. GSPs did not develop sustainable management criteria for land subsidence using the best available information and science. Interconnected water, surface water. GSPs did not develop sustainable management criteria for depletions of interconnected surface water. Getting a little bit more detail into each of these. The revised GSP addresses DWR identified deficiencies in the following ways. Under coordination, we have an amended GSP, which includes an amendment to the coordination agreement approved by the City Council on June 24th, 2020. In the revised GSP that addresses sustainability goals as well as current and projected water balances. The amended GSP also includes a draft domestic well mitigation program, or MOU. Chronic lowering of groundwater table. The new amended GSP will use fall 2020 or 2015 as the basis for the minimum threshold, or MT. MTs are used as a acronym throughout the GSP, you'll see. Anyway, this results in a minimum threshold being higher than the original GSPs. Land subsidence. The new GSP, amended GSP, establishes a maximum rate of subsidence that decreases in 5-year increments, with the initial rates based upon 2014-2015 annual rate of subsidence. Interconnected surface water, it seeks to maintain the historical time of connection into the future. In other words, it's looking back at the 2014-2015 time frame again. The coordination, the additional coordination, the amended coordination agreement, it includes a sustainability goal and also current and projected water balance. Those 2 things were added as an amendment. The original coordination agreement still stands. This has just been amended to go ahead and add these additional items. The domestic well mitigation MOU. There's probably more here than what you see in the coordination agreement. It establishes a program to mitigate impacts of declining water table. Mitigation can include short-term mitigation measures such as delivering water bottles to houses or tanks. It doesn't really necessarily fix anything for the long term. Therefore, it's a short term and helps people through what would hopefully be a short-term impact if their wells go dry. With regard to wells, the MOU would address deepening or replacement of the pump, deepening of the well or replacement of the pump. That could be actually dropping the pump as well. And let me go ahead and start over there. Anyway, deepening of or replacement of the pump and or the well. So you might go ahead and take the pump and replace it or deepen it. With regard to the well, you might attempt to go ahead and drill it deeper. And there you also go ahead and take the pump and lower it as well. And then residential water treatment. As water tables drop, there's the potential to go ahead and get into portions of the aquifer that do not have as good a water quality. So that would require treatment for some residential uses. And then connection to municipal systems. The city of Madera regularly does approve connections outside the city when a person runs dry. And that's just an example of those. We've actually a few years ago extended pipe, or I should say the county extended a pipe on Olive Avenue about 3/4 of a mile or mile outside the city as a service of 10 or 12 houses. That's the sort of thing that could also be done. Anyway, this program should be in place by 2025. The various GSAs within our GSP have been working on this for some time. We hadn't concluded a specific agreement. However, that came together fairly quickly for this particular amended GSP. And then the cost to the city as part of this MOU, what I've been hearing for quite some time is the city has a relatively modest to nil impact on the water table itself. So we're looking at about 1% of the total cost of mitigating wells within the subbasin. So if they look at spending $1 million a year to go ahead and mitigate wells that go dry, the city, as part of this agreement, would be expected to pay about $10,000 per year. That's relatively minor. The GSAs that have the largest impact are the Madera County and the Madera Irrigation District. They're the largest. Madera County has been making attempts towards mitigating their impacts. They've been relatively slow out of the gate. Madera Irrigation District has been making substantially larger runs at trying to go ahead and to get the mitigation measures contained in the groundwater sustainability plan, try to get those in place so the impact on the water table is reduced. As I said, I think it's around 1%. It could go as high as 2%, but that's what we've been talking for the last couple of years. The city of Madera is very low on that respect. Chronic lowering of the water table, use of 2015 minimum thresholds, or the MTs again. These are significantly higher than what was in the original groundwater sustainability plan. I'm going to go ahead and show you an example table on the next slide, but for the moment, I'll continue on with these particular points. We do have the ability, the city and the basin, perhaps the potential is a better word, to change sustainability and management criteria as part of a 5-year update. I haven't really spoke about the 5-year update thus far, so I'm going to spend just a couple of minutes with how this is planned to work according to Sigma. We submitted our GSP back in 2020. That says that we will be sustainable by the year 2040. But we do an annual report to the state to tell us how we're doing based upon items such as how are we doing with our mitigation measures? How is the water table doing? Go into the various different pieces of what we see happening. But every 5 years, we're expected to go ahead and do a much deeper dive into this and determine where we stand. As part of that 5-year update, we can make fairly significant changes if need be to the GSP to achieve sustainability by the year 2040. Right now, it looks like the city of Madera is looking good. We have 2 projects that we are supposed to complete as part of our plan. One of those is the Berry Basin, sharing stormwater dropped into the Berry Basin to go ahead and offset our impacts on the groundwater. Madera Irrigation District drops water into it. They get 50% of the credit, and the city gets 50% of the credit there. Our water meter project, we're like 93% complete on that. When we're complete with our water meters, which we expect to be in probably 18 months, we have one project that's going to be awarded or has been awarded at the last meeting. We have 2 more coming up. When we're done with water metering, we will be done with all the projects that we said we would do as part of the GSP. But as I say, we have the ability to change the sustainability criteria, or SMC, as part of the 5-year update. So if we identify things some things that say we need to be doing more, we would address those in the 5-year update. If there are things that say we can be doing less, we can update it. And I think I'm just going to jump ahead one slide because I want to go ahead and talk a little bit about that since I'm on that particular subject. This is a graph of the water level within an example well. It's a real well, and our consultant has shown a certain number of things on here to give an idea of what this particular well what we might do with it with the amended groundwater sustainability plan. This red line down here represents our go back to here in our minimum threshold. Under the current GSP, if the water table drops below that red line, we're supposed to take steps as a GSP, and that might be the GSP in general, but more likely it's going to be individual GSAs within the GSP that have to take steps. If the water table were to drop below that before the year 2040, we would be expected to take steps. That might be implementing new projects or programs. Do we need to go ahead and figure on doing more recharge basins throughout the county? And I'm speaking as GSP as a whole rather than the city, because again, we have most of our projects will be done in the next 18 months or so. That's where the line was with the original GSP. For each of the sample wells that we have within the sub-basin, they have a red line and they have a new purple line on them, or they will have a new purple line. This purple line is where we are setting the minimum threshold going forward. And that is based upon the year 2015, which is right in here. You see, at 2015, we touched a point that was the water level was at about 65 feet below mean sea level. If we touch that point, there is the potential for needing additional measures, and that will come out of a 5-year update. And then just expanding a little bit, this is just to give you a little bit more idea. The green line here is the modeling of what our consultants think the water table will do if things go the way they projected they are. They model in immediately a drought period, which you see here in the green. That's a drought period beyond this time frame. We've already seen a drought, so I'm not exactly sure how that's going to play in, but they're attempting to go ahead and show if we model in a drought period and then potentially another drought period, and we do the projects and programs within the GSP, we can expect to get up to a point where we are balanced. And we're looking to go ahead and get to a water table that matches up with this brownish line. Yes.
I'm sorry. I need to ask a question because it's very important. Can you go back to that graph real quick?
Sure.
Are you saying that now this particular well is only 65 feet? That the example that we're using up here?
Well, what I'm attempting to say is the minimum threshold is now 65 feet below mean sea level. Now, there is some interesting pieces to this, And I'm going to go ahead and tell you, not quite straight out of the gate, I'm attempting to go ahead and understand what our hydrologists are telling us. This is our goal, the one in purple. But you'll note that right through here, it starts to look like we're dropping below it already. But we have a good water year right now, so it'll probably recover. So the way the water levels at wells go is it's up and down continuously. It can be up and down based upon how often the well is used. It can be up and down based upon the weather. So when you look at this, you see these are actuals here in the purplish color. Those are actuals of what this particular water well is doing. And then they take those actuals and use their model to attempt to say what is going to happen after the last data point. And they showed here that it was going to drop a little bit and then move back up. They have a couple lines in here. Well, actually, they actually don't have the line I thought I was seeing, but they attempt to go ahead and show what is going to happen over time. And they set these minimum thresholds to satisfy the state that if it gets below a certain point, the GSP and GSAs will take steps to mitigate.
Yeah, just so that I'm reading this correctly, this is based off of the base in 2015, right? The MT.
Yes.
Okay. Now, on the right hand, you have depth to water in feet, and then groundwater elevation on the left. So how far, if we looked at 2015, was that well dug, if you don't mind me asking? Is that somewhere in the 260 feet?
I'm sorry, how far the well is dug?
Yeah.
Now that's
based on what you have up here on the right-hand side, depth of water.
Well, this data for this is it's not actually. I don't think that they're showing the depth of this particular well.
Okay, because when you say 65 feet to get to water, maybe I was confused there, but I don't think. That's
Sorry, it's 65 feet below mean sea level.
Okay, thank you.
And then as far as the depth, obviously the depth to water can vary depending upon where the well is drilled. If it's drilled in the mountains, it could be. It obviously is going to be quite a distance down to get to the water. Not obviously, but it might be.
This well is somewhere here. You said sub-basin, it's part of the city, this one, or is this a different well?
This one is outside the city, as I recall.
Yeah. So Keith, a point of clarification. So the city of Madera sits approximately 272 feet above sea level.
Yes.
So this would be 65 feet below sea level. So it would be 272 feet plus 65 feet. So that would give us let me pull out my calculator.
Starts to get closer to the 368, or excuse me, to.
And I think Councilmember Montes, did you say 377?
No.
Oh, okay. So, sorry. So this one would be roughly 337 feet deep. Roughly, because it's below sea level.
But this one is it's not in the city, it's out in the county right now.
We did have one that was in the city, and quite frankly, I was looking for something that was a little bit more clear. This one might be in the city, but I don't think that this one was. And I can find one and bring it up if that's helpful.
That's fine.
Okay.
Well, I think because we're going through the exercise, it's important for us to kind of get a conceptual idea of what we're looking at. It's
Sure.
important for me, I know, that knowing what the water levels are doing so that when I'm talking to constituents, I have an idea of what the hell I'm talking about.
Yeah, we
just throw numbers out there. Yeah, well, but okay, now I can see what I'm actually conveying to you.
We do have a report that the Public Works Department does keep in place, and it discusses every well, and it shows data for every well in the city. It'll show the depth to water when there's no pumping. It'll show the depth to water when it is pumping, how deep the well is, and there's probably 10 or 15 different data points that go with every well.
More specifically, I think to the city would be something that I'd be interested in if that is something that's available.
And if you, it's not a very easy table to go ahead and necessarily interpret, but we can potentially see if there's something that can be provided if you would like to see that. The wells in the city generally we're going to be drilling down to about 600 feet below the surface. That's to some degree exclusive of what the elevation, ground elevation is above it. So 600 feet in one area might equate to a water surface of 300 feet below. And another one might equate to a completely different water surface, depth to water, that is.
All right.
So is this going to service the entire city, or is this just a certain portion of the city, or what are you?
This particular well,
Yes.
there are probably thousands of wells throughout the county. They have a number of example wells that they're using to go ahead and present to the state. They attempt to find wells that they have the ability to reference on a continuous basis, year in, year out. In some cases, they might have a well and the property owner will go ahead and reject access at a later date because they're concerned that we're going to be misusing the data. To that end, our GSP is looking to go ahead and get grants. We may have secured one or two, looking to get grants to drill our own wells that we don't have to be concerned with, and those would be strictly monitoring wells.
Okay.
Keith, just to make sure we batten this down, what we're talking about here is not the wells of the city in and of itself. We're talking about everything that's gone under our GSA, which includes Madera County and these other water districts.
That's right.
So this panel tonight that we're talking about is not just about water wells in the city. You're picking and choosing whatever well is out there, and this is just one example of one well.
You are exactly right.
Okay,
It is. This is just an example of one of
Many.
I should have brought the map into this. Again, I can potentially bring up maps, but there's just one of like 15 plus wells that they are comparing.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. The SMC, as I indicated, that the sustainable management criteria can potentially change, and those are the sustainability goals, measurable objectives, interim milestones, minimum thresholds, undesirable results. Undesirable result is obviously a well going dry, and the monitoring network for each sustainability indicator within the plan area. So there are a number of criteria that we can follow. There are a number of more important ones. It's like the minimum thresholds. That's the one that perks my ears up if we're going to go ahead and potentially get to a point where minimum threshold is exceeded. Now, on the next graph here, you did note that that may be going below what I quoted. There, as this GSP is written, we have to exceed that threshold. It's 3 or 4 different wells. You can't just say one has been exceeded and now things have to change. You have to see that on several. And then there is a nexus between lowering of the water table and subsidence. And we'll get to subsidence here coming up. Subsidence. The initial rate is also based on subsidence measured in 2014, 2015. As mentioned previously, we do have the potential to change the SMC or the criteria as part of the 5-year update. The subsidence recommendations were revised in the GMP, and this is something when we were doing the original GSP, subsidence was, we didn't consider important for the Madera sub-basin. The state considers it important. In the city of Madera, we haven't seen a lot of subsidence. On the east side of Madera County, we haven't seen a lot of subsidence, but they have required us to go ahead and put a section in there with regard to subsidence. Now I'm going to get a little bit technical here, and I'll just work through it. So the minimum threshold, we're looking to go ahead and get to a point where we have 0 subsidence. that is something we probably will not see in any of our lifetimes, zero subsidence. Anything we do today with regard to impacting the water table will propagate over years or decades. So if we start pumping very seriously today, the water table, you suck the water out of the ground table and the soil starts to collapse on itself, that propagates up to the surface. Now you may see some initial whoa type statements in there, but the consolidation or the subsidence could still continue slightly for amount of time after that. Therefore, they have a 0.16 measurement error, meaning if you say it's 0, it could be 0.16 feet. It won't be negative. The ground's not going to go back up. Once it subsides, it's done. That's the way it is. Unless we go really out there and start reversing pumps from above and pushing water into the system. What they did inside the studies, they broke it up into 2 different areas, east and west, and they have defined essentially 4 different increments for subsidence and the goals that we have. And we are the east, so up till 2025, we don't want to go beyond 0.2 feet per year in terms of subsidence. In other words, pick any point and you don't want to drop by more than 2.4 inches. Go out to 2030 and 0.13 feet per year, 0.07, and then 0. And then for each of these, I said there's a measurement error of 0.16. As you can see, there's not much tolerance in terms of going the other way, starting with the 0.2. The tolerance on that would be 0.04 to 0.36 inches per year. And same as there being a nexus between the water table and subsidence, there is then the nexus between the water table and subsidence. Interconnected water surface. This comment's more directly related to ISWs, interconnected water surface along the San Joaquin River, but can be applicable along other channel bottoms, such as creeks, rivers, etc. What is an ISW? Generally, it's when the groundwater is connected with the surface water, occurring when groundwater is about the same level as the channel bottom. ISWs per the GSP have not generally existed for decades, and the GSP will say that it was broken prior to 2015. So that's, to me, it's a little bit of a contradiction. It says they haven't really been connected for decades, but they make the statement that it is broken prior to 2015. 2015 is the criteria that we're sticking with. We're saying 2014, 2015 is our measurement, but it's been broken for a long time. So think about it's not perched water table, but an artesian well. When you use artesian wells, used to be relatively common. We see an artesian well, that means that you have a connection between the surface and the creek that it may be flowing into. Mm-hmm. So when you get to the San Joaquin River, the GSP will describe something to the effect when there's releases coming out of Millerton and they're fairly large, the groundwater table it'll start percolating into the groundwater table, and you might actually get a connection between the surface of the river and the groundwater table below it. That's an interconnected water surface. It's somewhat more complicated than that, but I got myself at the very least up to the point where I can describe this.
So before you do, I'm sorry, so that I can
Sure.
see it, because again, visual. Are you saying that by percolating and recharging, the water levels would have to come up and meet the surface?
Something like that.
But that's unrealistic, because based on what they've said, that's been broken for decades.
Yes.
So we haven't met that.
We apparently meet it every so often. So when it comes down to this, it says that there are times when connection has been observed. That's water releases from Millerton. So if you get water releases there and it causes the water table temporarily along there to increase, then you might get an interconnection. I can give you a personal example. I used to have land on the San Joaquin, just at the 145. The depth to my water table was like 65 feet, and I could look down to the river, and the river was about 65 feet below that. So in that area, there was a connection between the groundwater table on my farm and the river. So that might be an interconnected water service. So what this, the metric on this, or the thing that they compare, will be the percent of time that when an ISW exists as of 2014, 2015. So there's a table in the report that says in some cases at these areas you have a 100% connection. In other areas it's 73%. Other areas it's somewhat less. If you start to look into the Madera area, Madera City area, you're going to see there's no connection potentially. And the thing that's important about those connections is it does have an effect on the environment. If there's no connection, it can affect the I'll go ahead and say the animal, for lack of a better word, the environment in those areas. Some areas within the county the way they used to be or appear had something to do with the interconnection of the water table. So it's a big environmental thing, and the state's taking that seriously. So if we show that 10% of the time we have a connection, then we'll seek to maintain that 10%. So the next bullet, maintain historical percent of time they are connected into the future. With any luck, it would increase, but they've been broken for decades. Trying to get back to that point, I don't know how you necessarily get back there. We're looking for sustainability by the year 2040. We're not really looking to back it up decades. And then the assessment would be based on a 5-year rolling average as proposed. My concluding statement is the draft is just that at this stage. The draft that you have connected, it's what was available on our consultant's website at the time that I prepared this report. There's 600 and something pages in here, and there are sections of appendices that are missing. There are some entire appendices that are not in there. I was able to piece it together to the point where I could go ahead and give you the entire main body of the report, but not all of the appendices. Is the draft complete enough for the council consideration? Staff believes the answer to this is yes. Though staff would have liked to give council more time to review. I apologize that it was such a tight review. This did come together. I started seeing the drafts Wednesday of last week, I think. And this is what you have in your report is the draft that I received Friday, I think. Thursday or Friday. But it's good enough for council to have seen the draft MOU, the draft coordination agreement. We don't have certainty at this point in time. I don't feel I have certainty at this point in time to know whether all the GSAs are going to go ahead and sign on to the coordination agreement. They didn't last time, but the sense is they might this time. If they do, I will be happy, because we won't have to go into a drawn out situation where we had to go ahead and do mediation the last time around to go ahead and get to a point where the agreement could be signed.
So, Mayor, if I may, just for the benefit of the council, and Keith has talked a little bit about this. So the reason this item is before council this evening, and going back to what Keith indicated, it seems a bit rushed. Keith was receiving information Thursday and Friday of last week on this report, and there is a submittal deadline to the state by tomorrow. And that's part of the challenge that we're having. So Keith was trying to piece this together. Him, MID, the county, and the other GSAs have been working diligently trying to come up with some kind of resolution, knowing that the state has placed very strict timelines on this. And without even knowing, going back to what Keith said, is everyone going to sign off on the agreement is still not certain. And then also, will the state approve the amended document. Well, we're not confident of that either. But at this point, we felt that the best thing to do was to submit something in coordination with everyone that everyone feels that it's a working document and hopefully the state can approve. But going back to something Keith said, the city overall has made progress, and we've done mostly all the projects, and we have a timeline for the projects that we committed to. And so we just want to be sure that we're not, at the end of the day, that someone's not saying, well, the city didn't sign off, so the entire thing got rejected, and now the state's going to come in with the heavy hand. And that's part of the challenge. And hopefully I captured that correctly.
No, you did very well. This is due to the state tomorrow. I received an email earlier today asking where 3 of the GSAs were. And I said we were scheduled for tonight. And I think it was Madera Water District said they were trying to get a meeting tomorrow to go ahead and approve this. It's coming down to the wire with a lot of the GSAs. Madera Water District was scheduled last week, but they canceled when they didn't have the GSP in time to prepare a report.
We've done our part.
We've done our part.
We've done our part.
Yeah.
And so we'll leave it up to the state.
Mhm.
And we can't wait on the other agencies. So we have to do this.
Yeah, we do our part. We'll be, nobody can look at us sideways in terms of holding up the submittal.
Thank you. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Lisa, do we have any public comment? I'm opening up public comment on this item.
Arnoldo, do you see anyone on Zoom?
I do not see anyone on Zoom.
I have no written public comment, Mayor.
Thank you very much. I'll close public comment and bring it back to my colleagues for comments. Councilmember Montes.
Yeah, so just kind of following up on that. So everyone needs to sign it by tomorrow, the 21st, or they need to sign their portion of it.
They need to adopt the GSP.
The 4 GSAs need to sign
Well,
this one.
they all, for whatever reason, all 7 need to approve of.
Need to approve this one, but we're going to send it to the state no matter what. Sounds like. And when would this come back?
I don't know that.
No. Okay.
There
We'll find
might
out
not be any. There might not be any point to submit it to the state.
Okay. So say everything goes smooth, everybody, things come by, they all sign it, goes to the state. When would that potentially come back? I mean, besides the 5-year review periods?
It took. I think it was June 2020 that we got our coordination completed, and it was September 2022 that we got the letter back. But they reviewed the entire GSP to go ahead and give us that letter. So if we hit their bullet points, it might be quicker. Okay. There are other things in the GSP that talk about timelines. It really looks like we're going to move forward with moving into the 5-year update now, so we get ahead of the game. I'll probably be making a presentation at some point with regard to the cost to that GSP. This was a fairly decent effort for a consultant to put just this together, but the updated the 5-year GSP or the 5-year GSP, there will be more modeling associated with that. And they're looking into grants for the cost of that. We did build some costs into the water rates for this program as well.
Thank you.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
Yes, thank you, Keith. So would you say that the deficiencies that are presented in the report here weigh minimal for the city as far as you talked about all these deficiencies with interconnection and stuff, but I mean, really the city has done quite a bit, and there's a high demand, especially that they put on urban use of water, which I think really attributes to very little of the overdraft, from the water that we recharge to water conservation, even to the metering of 93%, you said, of water usage in the city.
Over 93% of our meters. Yeah. I'm rough on the number, but
I mean, that's trying to squeeze blood from a turnip. I mean, we're doing everything we can. So that's what I'm asking is a lot of these deficiencies. I know that we work under a GSP as an individual GSA, but would you say a lot of those deficiencies?
I don't consider the city to be in a difficult spot here in terms of if the state came along, there wouldn't be much to say to the city. I'm not saying, however, that 5-year updates wouldn't say that we need to do more. I personally was surprised when the model said what it said, that all we had to do was 2 projects. Now, if the state has a problem with what we have, they'll likely be looking at Madera County. I don't think they'll be looking at Madera Irrigation District. Madera Irrigation District has been fairly active in terms of getting measures in place to reduce the amount of water used.
So because only 4 of these GSA signed into this GSP, is the state looking in? I mean, I thought I heard you say that they want all GSAs now. Are you saying all GSAs of the original 4 or all 7 GSAs to sign?
They want all 7 to be, I'll say speak as one. Maybe that's overreaching a little bit, but they want the same methodology to be used. We have 7 GSAs and 4 GSPs, and the methodology is varied. One of them said, we're not in the game here. We're balanced. And part of their balance was they don't see the water table dropping. Part of the reason they had that particular benefit was because the water flows in and out through their basin, and anything they do just basically means they're sucking water out of the ground that might have been used by another GSA. There's 4 different methodologies, and they want everybody to speak as one in terms of methodology.
Yeah.
So,
just if I heard you correctly, you said if they look at what the city has done, I mean, what are we looking at as a possible outcome if we don't meet their criteria? Is it conservatorship at some case for like every single individual GSA, or I mean, because the sub-basin itself, I mean, we all have different uses for water. Different demand for water and different aspects of it. But I always, obviously we want to work together because it's sub-basin. But truthfully, I mean, here at the city, we're probably the GSA that takes in the least amount of water.
Yeah, we're as I said, we're balanced.
Right. If I may, Mayor and Council, before you is the plan. So this is at this time you're being asked to approve an amended plan, and so there could be repercussions if by tomorrow the plan is not approved by the 7 entities, and the state could, for example, create their own interim plan to impose on the 7 GSAs. That could be like a really bad scenario, right? So right now we're doing the plan, and there could be repercussions, but we don't think that there would be repercussions if the plan is submitted. Now, implementation, once the plan is adopted and approved by the state, then we get to implementation. And I think that's when there could be fines and penalties and cease and desist orders and all sorts of things as to particular GSAs if they don't implement the plan that had been approved. I don't know if that helps.
But in our case now, we are complying with that plan by providing our individual acknowledgement that we approve that plan, right? So therefore,
if you approve it this evening, you would be complying with the requirement to adopt an amended plan.
Gotcha. Thank you.
we can't, I can't speak to the future, what might happen. Well, we can to some degree. The city attorney mentioned that we had to go ahead and do projects. The plan as it is indicated that multiple GSAs should be doing things already. City Madera is already doing those things. We will be done before the 5-year update. and we'll be looking good. But others haven't started yet, and that could be a problem for the state.
Thank you, Keith.
Pleasure.
So I will now bring it back to my colleagues for adoption or not adoption of this resolution, adopting of the amended groundwater sustainability plan.
Move to approve on May 1 as presented.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Montes, second by Councilwoman Gallegos to adopt a resolution under item A1. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Keith.
Okay, thank you.
Item A2. Arnoldo, do you have this item?
I have this item, Mayor.
Thank you, Marcel.
Okay, thank you.
problem.
Marcelo. Buenas.
Buenas tardes. Good evening, Mayor, council members. The item I have before you tonight, if I could just share my screen. Okay. The item I have before you guys tonight is a request from Community Action Partnership of Madera County to terminate the Community Development Block Grant 2021 subrecipient agreement related to the Rapid Rehousing Program and the reallocation of grant funds to the 2023-24 CDBG Capital Public Improvements funding category. A little bit of background on this item. On July 28th, 2022, Council approved a CDBG subrecipient agreement for services with CAPMC from the 21-22 CDBG allocation in the amount of $345,027 for a rapid rehousing project. I'm going to correct that date. That should be July 28th, 2021.
Yeah.
The grant project proposed serving transitional youth ages 18 to 24, leasing 4 3-bedroom units to house homeless individuals and families, serving a minimum of 12 clients, securing leases on behalf of clients, entering a sublease with the client, providing case management services. On February 24th, 2023, CAPMC notified the city of intentions to terminate the agreement. On March 7th, 2023, the city received a written 30-day notice. As a result of this request, and if council approves, staff seeks approval for the remaining grant funds, for the reallocation of the remaining grant funds. In summary, since awarded, CAPMC has maintained staff abreast of challenges in finding affordable housing options for transitional youth ages 18 to 24. CAPMC considered entering a master lease with the owners of a building under renovation located at 322 West 6th Street in Madera. In accordance with the agreement, staff approved the modification to the scope of work and a 1-year extension to complete the work through December 2023. The renovation of the said building continues, and the expected date of completion is undetermined. Despite due diligence on behalf of CAPMC, no building alternatives were identified. The city is currently in the process of reviewing the 2023-24 applications and is seeking council approval to reallocate the unused funds in the amount of $342,761.46 from the 2021 CDBG subrecipient agreement for services with CAPMC. Reallocation of funds has a favorable impact to the city in the following manner. It will increase the likelihood of meeting HUD's timeliness requirement for the expenditure of funds, and it increases the availability of funds for the 2023-24 capital public improvement applicants. The recommendation on behalf of staff tonight is for council to adopt a resolution approving the CAPMC request to terminate the 2021 CDBG subrecipient agreement for services related to the rapid rehousing program and approving the reallocation of the remaining grant funds in the amount of $342,761.46 to the 2023-24 CDBG capital public improvement funding category. Maddie Mendez with CAPMC is with us also tonight, and I think would like to maybe speak on this a little bit. Maddie?
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, council members and city staff. I just want to share, it's disappointing that we could not utilize this funding for housing. You know how difficult it is to find long-term housing and enter into master leases. I was hoping that the project on 6th Street would have been completed in time, but as I drive by it quite often, it's still at a stage where the exterior is worked on, and then we have the timing for the construction of the interior. That means electrical, all of those things. So my hope was that that site would have provided a perfect location to serve the youth. It would be close to city services, and then hopefully getting them close to a bus stop if they were attending Madera Community College. I want to share with the council members that the youth have been served by other funding that CAPMC receives. For example, we had a youth that was asked to leave his home by his dad, and he was homeless, and we were able to provide emergency services, and he recently moved into job corps in San Jose. We have some other youth in this bracket that we have served and to find housing, and we've also utilized the emergency housing vouchers for the youth that are in this age bracket to support to find housing. Right now, out of the 33 vouchers, we have 30 that are current, and we have 11 that have been enacted, like the families have found housing. So we have the remaining that are seeking housing at this time, but being supported by staff. I'm available for any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much for that report, Marcela. We will now move on to public comment on this item A2. Are there any public comments that are being requested, Alicia?
No written public comment, Mayor.
And there's no one online,
There's
Mayor.
no on Zoom. Thank you very much. I'll close public comment and bring it back to my colleagues for questions, comments, or do we just bring it back and give the money back to the CDBG funds? Mr. Montes.
I just want to say thank you to Maddie. I know this is probably not something that you're doing easily, or, I'm sure it's causing some heartburn. CAPMC, I know you want to do what's best, and for us to, or for you to say that, hey, there have been some impediments to being able to expend these dollars. But I'm confident that, like you said, we're finding other sources to serve people. And I know today it's going back, or the item says we go back to capital improvements. Is that where it initially came from, Marcela?
Yes, that's where it was originally allocated from. And the requirement is that it must go back to the same funding category.
Okay. So, I mean, I don't know what the answer to this is. I know we have had some issues with finding housing. I know Housing Authority, that's an issue that we also have, actually getting people to take the vouchers, things like that. So I know that might be something that we consider later on, how we can use this to, I don't know, build something ourselves but I just want to say thank you, Maddie, for everything you do for the community. Appreciate
Well, I just want to share that I'll be back to CDBG applications. Once I secure a location, I'll have the location first and then come back. And so this will be different. And we'll still serve our youth, our 18 to 24 age group.
Ready. Then I'll bring it back to my colleagues for a motion to either approve or disapprove the funds being delivered back to the city.
Approve item A2 as presented.
Motion to approve item A2 by Councilmember Montes, second by Councilwoman Evans. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much, both of you, for your presentations, sir.
Thank you.
Now move to adjourn this meeting tonight. There will be no further reports and or discussions. Our next meeting dates are Wednesday, April 5th and Wednesday, April 19th, 2023. Thank you all for attending. Have a good night.
Good night.